70% of companies do not have any kind of exit strategy and succession plan.
And part of what we're trying to seek to help advisors do is define what's on the other side of that door. What are you exiting to, not from?
How can you help prepare your team? Just getting your business on track, because eventually you will.
It's emotional, it's scary, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about my potential exit in whatever way you're going to exit.
Welcome to the Total Succession Show. I'm your host, Tyson Ray, joined by Kim Cochenour. We're glad you're here. Today's conversation just might be the nudge you need to start preparing for what's next.
Today's guest, I am so excited to share with you because she has seen it all when it comes to succession planning. We're talking to Andrea Schlapia, founder of Ironstone, a firm that actually really gets into the weeds with advisors and makes them get serious about building strong teams, strong systems, and strategies that actually support their long-term growth and eventually succession. She has her S.P.A.C.E designation, and she integrates EOS into her coaching. And someone I admire and Tyson admires for just how she takes the structure with empathy and honesty when that can feel really overwhelming. Andrea, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Kim, Tyson, thank you. It's a pleasure to always collaborate with you too.
We've had quite the relationship over the years, and we've done one or two of these podcasts already, but this is kind of bringing in some of this unique perspective that you gain between the EOS that you have and the exit planning that you have and the focus you had in the financial industry. And we think we're kind of speaking into a niche with advisors looking to make this transition and realizing there's not a lot of places to get some of this education unless you're really going to get into the weeds of a transaction or a succession. And so that's what we're putting together here, is just a podcast to allow people to kind of learn some things. And you definitely bring some expertise and some resources. So we look forward to having this conversation with you today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Andrea, we're going to kind of get into laying the groundwork. And something that we hear all the time is, and I'm sure you do too, I'll get to my exit plan someday. Now, why do you think so many advisors are delaying their succession planning?
It's emotional, it's scary, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about my potential exit and in whatever way you're going to exit. Exit is scary, but here's the thing. This is how I want to help you to frame exit is it is merely a good business strategy. It is not, I cannot repeat, it is not an event. If you make it this massive event, you're not going to want to do it because it's this ultimate, like, here it is, January 1st, 2035, holy cow moment versus what do we need to do right now to have a great business strategy so that we can all be on the same page? We, and I'm saying we because I want to help you move from a single business owner run practice to a leadership team run business so that the weight of the world doesn't have to be on your individual shoulders. We move from again, individual-led practice. I'm saying individual-led practice for a purpose to a leadership team run business. Let's create an actual viable business that when you choose to actually exit, and it is that day, you've done all the great things to build a business that your team and your clients actually deserve. And you're being very purposeful to increase the value of your practice because you're creating processes, you're creating systems, you have a leadership team, you have a clear vision, and knowing where everybody is going and everybody is on the same page of where your vision is. And that leadership team is reinforcing that vision throughout your entire organization. So there's so much to unpack here, but there you go.
When you're listening to this and you're hearing the word exit, and if you have anxiety towards that, first probably realize, and I like to use the word exit, like think of like a door you're passing, like the exit sign. If the other side of that door is void, if it is completely unknown, that can be scary. So you want to stay in the area or the room that you know. And part of what we're trying to seek to help advisors do is define what's on the other side of that door. What are you exiting to, not from? And part of this may be a journey of not exiting into being retired or severing yourself from your career. Maybe it's just exiting some of the things you don't like to do anymore that's sucking the life and the energy out of you being your best self. And so we're excited to have Andrea here to help us flush out some of these things and some of the tools and resources that she brings to the table to help advisors do just that.
So, Andrea, one of the things I heard between you and Tyson is there's just things that can get in their way. I think some of that is more of on that personal note and operational. What are some of those hurdles that you've helped them kind of get past, and how do you do that with advisors?
Well, if I'm specifically saying like the EOS process and what does that look like, I really always want to promote structure first and traction first and vision second. Everybody wants to go with vision of like, ooh, what's the big plan? What's the big picture? 10 years, 3 years, 1 year. But if we don't have an infrastructure in place before we do all of that, that doesn't allow anybody to let go of the vine. Letting go of the things that you don't want to do, letting go of the things that you might be good at, but you really don't enjoy. So it's not giving you any energy. So from that perspective, we want to get the right people in the right seats. We want to put together what's called an accountability chart. You can argue it's an org chart, but the difference and the purpose, it's what are the functions of the business that you want to have accountability around, like business development, marketing, client experience, operations, and what's a great week look like in those things. Structure, and discipline around those structures is literally going to give you freedom and peace of mind that the business is operating with or without you in the seat on a day-to-day basis. If you can't let go, you have a job, you do not have a business, because if you're the only one that could do that thing, you haven't let go to allow other people to thrive and be successful and see their long-term opportunity within your business structure.
I don't want to miss the importance of a bit of the pivot that we just made. So, Andrea, one of your roles is EOS, and some people may not know what EOS is. To help those that are listening, I thought I was doing all of that Andrea was doing. I had the business plan, I had the goals, I had the org chart, and what I realized is I knew what it meant, and no one on my team did. And we tried to do things on our own, didn't need help, didn't need coaching. And it wasn't until we read the book Traction, until we learned what EOS even was, and then got Andrea to come and help coach and help us bring a different way of processing things together, bring Kim and I into a room and have us really kind of grind out what do these things really mean and how they need to be evolved. So if for the person that's just like hearing this, and if we can just kind of take a little pivot and just talk about EOS for a second, because you were just explaining what EOS was, but I want to make sure they understand. It's like, okay, first and foremost, what is EOS as an acronym stands for?
The Entrepreneurial Operating System. Gino Wickman is an entrepreneur. He had 25 years plus in a family business. He did all the right and the wrong things and cobbled together a ton of resources with a lot of other subject matter expertise. Again, he pulled a lot of levers to create this Entrepreneurial Operating System at EOS. If I can make a recommendation to your listeners, or if you're watching it either way, go listen to Get a Grip by Gino Wickman. And I'm specifically saying listen. It is the fable of a business going through the EOS process. It will make reading Traction more digestible. Again, it's a fable. It's a business going through the literal process. So you'll hear about Alan, the implementer. That's my role with you guys. And you'll hear about Carol, the bad employee, and like all these other characters. So you'll get lost in the movie version. So if I can recommend listening to that. Traction is one that you want the physical book. It is the reference guide. It is the Bible. It is the thing that you're going to go back to, dog ear, underline, highlight, that if you read it, you literally can implement. It is truly a choice because all of these things are creating process and habits and systems. And so the choice is ultimately yours if you want to do these things or not. Traction, get it. It's got every answer in there of what we're talking about today from an EOS perspective.
Yep, and we stumbled onto traction in 2018 and tried to do it on our own, thinking that's how we had done everything, and it wasn't until we brought Andrea on as the implementer that we then found ourselves doubling and then doubling again and finding the traction that comes from that. And now what's interesting about the EOS part is you got the certification, you started bringing that into your coaching, which you've been doing for years. And recently, you opted to go get this certification in exit planning. And why was that? Tell us about that.
So the SEPA is the Certified Exit Planning Advisor. And I felt like for me personally, the missing piece was how to have that really heavy conversation about exiting. And everything that EOS is setting you up for a high value firm that you could turn around and say, hey, here's the franchise book, how to run this business and get really great value at it. But the emotional piece of having that exit strategy mindset that EOS is the vehicle for that. But what is the triggering event? 70% of companies do not have any kind of exit strategy and succession plan. So this is a huge, huge issue with all of the transition that right now we're having in our financial industry with the turnover and trillions of dollars exiting advisors. There are more now than are coming into the industry. So this is no longer nice to have thing. This is table stakes. You can't avoid this. And so having that emotional conversation, being able to talk about exit in a really healthy way and complement that with the tools of EOS is a really nice marriage. And the language that the SEPA industry uses is the four, intangible capitals. And it talks about human capital and structural capital, client capital, and social or cultural capital, which guess what? Those all fit right in with EOS, and they speak EOS and they use EOS inside of exit planning. So these two I feel like are a really nice combination. And guess what? As financial advisors, you have probably business owners that are exiting as well. So if you can incorporate these tools in your own business, I'm not just teaching EOS. I run my own team and my own coaching firm on EOS. I mean, Traction came out in 2008. Somebody handed me that book literally when I was launching my company, and I ignored it for 2 years until 2010.
That's right. Yeah.
So I screwed up. So let me help you to avoid the mistakes I've personally made, and help you to have a great run company. Again, build a company that your team and your clients actually deserve. That's going to give you the peace of mind that you've done it right. And you know what? We're all humans. We're going to make mistakes. This is not about perfection. This is about progress. But you literally can have mental freedom by having more structure in your business. And I hear the objection all the time of like, that's too rigid. That's too much. I can't do that. And I would just say, try it. Because the worst thing you can do is you can go back to what you were doing before. But with structure and with a leadership team, a clear vision, everybody on the same page, and now everyone executing on that vision, that is what creates that healthy organization. You can have a smart organization all day long, but you may not be healthy. Healthy being open, honest, vulnerable conversations that are hard, but yet you have an infrastructure and a vehicle to do that with all of the EOS resources.
Well, and Andrea, something I think you do really well is it gives the advisor the vision for that they can actually exit if they've been able to set their business up in a way that it runs without them. Because I think so many advisors have been sitting in a seat with multiple hats that it just really makes it challenging for them to even think, well, how would I even exit my business when I still lead marketing, or I'm the only one who's making trade decisions, and I'm the only one who knows how to service our clients well. You give them the framework through EOS to get there, and then the exit piece is kind of that icing on the cake for them to do that next step and that next chapter well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What you need to realize is the truth is you are going to exit your business. It's either
No
gonna
matter
be
what.
no matter what, because you are either and it's gonna be on your terms and your plan, or it's gonna be based on what other people decide for you. And if you're listening to this and you were wise enough for your loved ones to build an estate plan, to protect your assets, to protect the people that you wanna leave things to or love, and you don't have a well-defined exit strategy for your business, which most likely is a very big component of your exit or excuse me, of your estate plan, this is some of the things we're talking about. We're not necessarily talking about rushing you into retirement you may or may not want to have. And at the same time, part of having an exit is also having the conversation with your loved one. It was me realizing it wasn't exiting for me. It wasn't exiting because I wanted to have an exit plan. It wasn't exiting because part of we believe the fiduciary duty of an advisor is to turn clients over to a successor. It was the fact that my wife, who has been by my side for all of these years, at some points wants to know I'm gonna be done, or at the very least, I'm not gonna be coming home with all the burdens and stresses that come with running a full service financial service firm, employees, multiple locations, markets, stress, and love the job, but it comes with burdens that part of a EOS with an exit plan strategy is to create a self-managing company that you can start removing yourself and giving yourself back time and energy to maybe have a longer career, but have one that you enjoy much more and your people in your life can enjoy much more.
100% agree on that. On a silly note, my husband said, I have no idea what to do. If you die and you have this company, I literally have a file in my file folder that said, if Andrea is dead, and all of the
Yep.
answers to those questions. I mean, that sounds silly, but the anxiety that my spouse has over the company that I have because
Mhm.
he is not in it, well,
Yep.
that's not really fair to him, is it?
Yeah.
So think about your family, if nothing else. Exactly what you said, Tyson. Agree.
So I want to talk for a second about what do you see as far as, there's studies out there that are trying to project the next 5 to 10 years, but just within the fact because you work with a very established network of financial advisors now across multiple different firms and multiple different platforms, what do you see as far as this retirement reality or this need that's going to transpire in the next decade within the industry?
I am in complete agreement in the next with you, Tyson. In the next 5 to 10 years, there's gonna be such a huge amount of firm changeover hands, that without this purposeful choice to look at the infrastructure of your business, the businesses may not be there anymore. So I wanna challenge you with you guys have done a really great job of creating an intern program and allowing people to sit in multiple seats so they can explore all the options. And I think that is kudos to you guys because I think that is one of the major gaps. Even if we weren't in that 5 to 10 year window when there's going to be a huge amount of transition from a business owner to the next generation, without that happening, the aspect of not painting the picture of what the opportunity is for new hires, regardless of age, in their life, in their career. If I can't see where we're going, how do I know if I want to join this team or not? It's just more crucial because of the time that we are in, because of that massive transition. There's more 55 plus year old advisors that are transitioning out of the business and less coming in. So the talent pool is tighter. It's harder to find people that want to do this and are passionate about this. So creating a culture and clarity of what you have within your business is going to help you to become a premier place to work if you build out this infrastructure of culture and clarity and what your primary offerings are to your client base and having everybody on the same page in that regard. It's no longer a nice to have. It's a critical must have in this moment in time, in my humble opinion.
as I kind of went through this process of trying to understand how do I want to try and help bring information to advisors that are thinking about succession, both those that are looking to exit and those that are maybe are looking to acquire or take advantage of the clients that are going to be orphaned in this process. And the fact that I've brought in or taken over or helped 7 now advisors transition to retirement and kind of looked back on what worked and what didn't work, and that's kind of what these podcasts are about. I found myself coming up with this acronym, and then the acronym is SPACE, and partially it's SPACE because most advisors don't create the space they need in their schedule and get themselves a way to start thinking through what they really want. We're caught up in the urgency and the grind of the business. We're so focused on doing the financial planning for our clients that we don't necessarily do it for ourselves. And the acronym stands for seeing, preparing, acting, committing, and then exiting. And if I was talking to an advisor, if you're listening to this, and Andrew, I want your feedback on this to kind of where you see clarity and momentum. The advisor first it's seeing, which is part of planning. It's sitting down and seeing what is your future? What is that? What would you exit to? What do you like and don't like? How can you see yourself letting go? How do you see what happens if all of a sudden you didn't wake up tomorrow morning, and who needs to know what now they can't ask you? Uh, in seeing, you then also you can also see what are some of the things then that you need to be preparing your team for in order to make some type of exit or succession. And then what are the things that you actually have to act on? Because, it's kind of like a to-do list, and they actually now prioritize which ones you got to act on. What do you need to commit to in yourself to letting go? What do you need to commit to if you're going to have a junior successor take over, or if you're going to roll yourself up to an acquisition that now you don't own it anymore? And what do you need to commit to make sure those things play themselves out? But in the end, in that space, is going back to this exit and defining something that you're excited, like it's something that is not the end, but the beginning of the next phase of your life that you get to go enjoy. And most of us started our career with the intent of at some point being able to now transition into the free zone, if you will, where you're no longer tied to have-tos and stress and to-dos. And so this concept of space, seeing, preparing, acting, committing, exiting is just a way to try and help bring thought around this idea, which is pretty complex with regards to succession. Uh, what do you see in these steps where most advisors have a hard time, or where you've seen advisors succeed?
I think the hardest is the very beginning and being able to see it, because you're not slowing down. You're not taking clarity breaks, meaning stepping away from the busyness of being in the business and being able to literally get out of your head where you want to go. Anywhere from 5 to 30 years. Don't even think about the exit part. Just where do you want to go in the next anywhere 5 to 30 years. If I'm speaking EOS language, it's the 10-year target is what it's called. And the reason why it's 10-year target is because that's what the majority of people can digest is 10 years. If you are within that window, it might be 5 years, it might be 3 years. I cannot stress enough, if we're literally thinking about the exit and you're doing what's next, this is a 3 to 5 minimum ramp up to help your team become their best. So if you're in that window, this is even more critical for you. But I think the hardest part is seeing it, because this is literally the moment where you say, what can I delegate so that I can elevate to my next, whatever next means for you. I want to change the language from exiting to next. Let's just change the words, because exit is emotional. It is a trigger word for a lot of folks, because it's like, I'm never exiting. That's okay. Then what is next? Like, just let's get the definition of next. So I think that's the hardest part. I think once you get through that hurdle and truly thinking about bringing in other voices to the table to create a leadership team, because the weight of the world is on the individual sole practitioner. And when you can let go, delegate, and elevate, and have other people that sit in the different functions of the business to say, okay, I know you're over client experience and the buck stops with you in that. So hardest part, back to your question, Tyson, just seeing it, where we're going. And I think the moment that you can get that out of your head and literally communicate that to the other humans on this team and in this business, they understand where you're going, then you can have a deeper conversation to help them know what their piece of that is. So that's that acting piece, and then committing piece are the two that, it's like wildfire. Once it's clear of where we're going and everybody's on the same page, the execution part is so exciting to see that come to fruition, because now it's like we're all on the same page. All of these, we're just balls of energy, and we're all now going in the same direction. All the arrows are pointed in the same direction, instead of lack of clarity, lack of communication. It's in your head as the business owner. But you know what? If I sat 4 people down in the same room and said, tell me what the vision of this firm is, you would get 4 different answers if that was your leadership team. So I cannot stress enough, the C part of the space is so critical, because that starts everything. If you don't have that on paper, and that, if I speak EOS language, that would be equivalent to the VTO. VTO is the Vision Traction Organizer, and it has 8 questions to help get out of your head where you want to go. So your core values, your core focus, your 10-year target, your marketing strategy, your 3-year picture, 1-year plan, 90-day rocks, and your issues list. Those are 8 questions on that Vision Traction Organizer. I love the space.
Say you're the solo advisor. I'm the solo advisor, and I have a couple people on my team, and I'm not really sure what to do. Giving them a time frame of 10 years to really kind of start planning, seeing what you can do, how can you help prepare your team? And it might not even be for an exit, but just getting your business on track, because eventually you will. And then being able to put a plan in place so you can act on it, you can commit to it as a team, so it's not just on the owner's shoulders, and then you can actually move to what's next if it isn't your exit. You have to have language around it, and I think sometimes you can struggle with where to even go, because you can't even articulate what you're lacking in structure to put some action to what needs to move forward.
Well said. Well
Yeah,
said. Absolutely.
And I think if you're listening to this again, and I'm a true believer, like, if you are equipped to do this, you'd have already done it.
Mm.
And a lot of times, to be able to grow in areas that are unknown to you or a blind spot to you, is to get coached. And that's, again, where there are resources out there, and Andrea is one of them, that's helped us. That's why we brought her on the podcast, to help us learn how to move forward in ways we didn't know how to move forward, in both how the day-to-day business runs and also what a succession can look like, which ultimately EOS is working to go complete that succession, right? That's the final goal of how that firm can live beyond you.
So, Andrea, I think what will help is, let's give an example. Like, let's put some reality behind it. Please disguise names if you're going to use an actual name, but I think it's important. Like, how have you helped through a successful exit, or help that advisory team get to what's next? What does that look like, and how did you help guide them through that process?
Absolutely. Well, EOS is not a check mark off the list and we're done with it. That I want to just say that right off the bat.
Very true.
It's a process. It's a process. There's, overall, there's 20 tools in the whole EOS toolbox. And the whole purpose is to help you to understand how the tools can impact your practice. It's typically a 24-month period to help you to understand all the EOS tools. But we get into a cadence after we get from our focus day, that is setting up the infrastructure and the accountability chart and our scorecard. Like, what's a great week look like in marketing or biz dev? That is so critical to have those measurables so everybody can have a number. So we focus on the vision component. There's 6 key components for the overall structure of the EOS model. The vision component has those 8 questions, and ultimately the goal is to get everybody to follow those 8 questions. Then the people component, getting the right people in the right seat. The data component is the scorecard and the measurables that you are working towards. The issue component is getting all of the things that are not working out of your head onto an issues list and doing something called IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. ultimately the process component, and this is where I see both real successes in this, but then also it's the Achilles heel. The process component is getting everything out of someone's head or someone's multiple of how to do that thing and get everyone to follow those process and systems. That is a game changer for the valuation of your business. So process and system documentation is critical. And then ultimately the traction component, getting into a 90-day cadence. It's amazing that God put us on this earth and there's 4 seasons in the year, and that's a 90-day period. We live in 90-day periods by design.
Yep.
And we kind of get off track if we don't recalibrate every 90 days. So once we're through this initial teaching and coaching and sharing of the foundational tools of EOS, we get into a quarterly cadence. And that every team that I have the privilege to work with, we get back together and some say, you know what, at day 79, I was already off track. I've been off track since day 60. Like this is a healthy reset. So it's getting everybody back on the same page, recommitting to what the most critical initiatives are in a 90-day period. And yes, this is improving assets and revenue and all of the numbers side of your business. But what it's really doing is it's helping create a healthy, cohesive leadership team, heavy weight off of the business owner's shoulders, doubling and tripling practice evaluations, being prepared for whatever next even means. And that's why I cannot stress of don't worry about the actual exit event. Think about the business strategy and focusing on how to make your business as high value as possible with the right people in the right seats, clarity of the vision and where you were going, communicating it. Guess what? You know what? You have to say something 7 times. Statistically proven, you have to say something 7 times for someone to hear it for the first time. 7 times to hear it for the first time. Yes, I'm repeating myself. So from that perspective, ensuring that all of the team has clarity of where you're going, it is such a game changer. So it's the numbers game. It's doubling and tripling and 10xing your business. That's what it's doing for you from a numbers perspective. But seeing the right people in the right seat, having healthy, cohesive conversations, everybody going in the same direction and executing on that vision, that's the real win, in my humble opinion, beyond the numbers.
Where have you seen this not work? Where have you seen somebody that you had that their succession didn't work either through death or what they were expecting to be when they wanted to transition to retirement didn't end up happening, to kind of help drive home the why this is needed?
I have several horror stories, but one of them that just stuck with me and has always stuck with me was a business owner shared a business partner of his, and he had his succession plan literally, or his catastrophic plan on a Post-it note. So if you're, listening to this, I'm holding a Post-it note up right now, the small one. Literally had what the plan was written on a Post-it note in his desk drawer, and he did pass away, and his family got pennies on the dollar, and all of this was just on a Post-it note. So I cannot stress this is not something to wait. So there is a difference between catastrophic and succession planning. Catastrophic plan is, what do you do if you die and have all of the life insurance and your family is taken care of, but your team is taken care of as well. Succession planning is the long game of allowing people to experience all of the seats on the bus, helping grow and mentor them into the space that's going to allow them to be their ultimate best and tap into their unique ability. When it doesn't work is people lack having or being willing to have the vulnerable, open, honest conversation. Patrick Lencioni is a key player inside of all of the things of EOS. Patrick Lencioni is the guy that wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. get the whole series of everything, The Ideal Team Player, Death by Meeting. I can keep going down the list of all the books. And his Working Genius assessment is phenomenal. And the reason why I love everything Patrick Lencioni is because of the simplicity of it. And that is easy to digest and actually put into play every single day. 5 Dysfunctions of the Team is talking about being that healthy, cohesive group of humans, leadership team or not, that's beyond the point. But if you're not vulnerable, open, honest, and trust is the first of the 5 dysfunctions. It's not about I don't trust you or not trust you. That's a whole different level. But this is being able to trust and be vulnerable, open, and honest, and be able to share, you know what, I'm not comfortable, or this is a hard conversation. And that's when it doesn't work. Because if you can't get that vulnerability-based trust within the group of humans, nothing will move forward from there, in my humble opinion.
And one of the things that tests or proves that trust is there is nothing in the world of succession is final if it's not in legal documents, in organizational structure, in employment agreements, and partnership agreements, because the sticky notes or the verbal agreement or the plan written on a document that we all said this is what we're going to do means nothing when you finally get to where the rubber meets the road and a transaction is happening, or worse, in the catastrophic event, that if there aren't legal documents that people have signed off on exactly what's going to happen, you don't have a succession. Most likely you have a catastrophe.
Amen to that, brother. Preach it.
I heard a statistic that over 70% of humans on the planet do not have their estate documents lined up is because it's hard. It's hard to think through what the end will look like. It's hard to think about the exit of your business. It's hard to think about what's next in your business because you actually have to get out of the rhythm and routines of your business and your life to actually stop to think through those things. But I think everyone has seen the outcomes of those who have been proactive in those planning points and those who have to be reactive. And so I think that it's using some of those systems that really actually helps you get to a place that at the end of the day, your family and your loved ones are going to be okay no matter what ends up happening because you've taken care of all of those pieces for them, because it really matters. At the end of the day, your husband needs to know where that file is. Your team needs to know where the future lies just beyond the founder. And I think we're all looking for, if we're invested in this topic, we're looking to have a legacy firm. And it takes that structure and that time and dedication to getting it done right.
And I will say, failing to plan is going to equal value erosion. So if you were merely talking about value of your firm, it will erode without your purposeful planning and infrastructure of your business.
Yep. And for those of you that the financial part aside, you owe it to your clients who've entrusted their life savings with you as often the founder, and then the team that you've brought to them to have in place, and to be able to communicate to them, the client, as a value add of putting their interests first, that you've thought past yourself and have a executable legal contractual agreements in place to allow that client to know that if something happens to you, they're still going to be in the same culture with the same trusted associates, executing the same systems and processes that you've put in place. And so as we kind of get this wrapped up, I first want to ask Andrea, so someone's listening to this and they don't know where to start with regards to either EOS, maybe trying to get some type of operating system implemented, or help with the exit planning. How would they reach out to you in Ironstone?
You can find us on our website at ironstonehq.com. We have really simple email addresses. Mine's Andrea@ironstonehq.com. And we have a Calendly link. And we'll put links in the show notes for you guys to find us on LinkedIn and all kinds of good stuff. So I am passionate about what I do to help you get to the place where you have peace of mind and freedom inside the business. And it's, again, building a business that your clients and your team deserves.
Well, Andrea, I think Everyone, me included, had a time today where it's like, "Yep, I needed to hear that." There was a good reminder in
Mm.
there for all of us about why we either stick to the plan we've put in place or stick to the process when it's challenging, or an encouragement and a little kick in the pants to start getting it done if you're not there yet.
That's what my job is, kicking the pants
Kick
sometimes.
in the pants, professional kick in the
Lovingly,
pants.
always
Yep.
lovingly.
Well, and that's what if you're listening to this too, most advisors, what makes Andrea very good at her job, and I know this firsthand, is some of us need to be challenged, right? When you are the king of your castle or the queen of your kingdom, uh, it's hard sometimes for people to go challenge you to move things forward or do things you just don't want to do or make decisions maybe you don't want to make. And by hiring a coach, Andrea can come help kind of check that ego or check that authority or check that power to help you help yourself. And that's what coaching is for. It's to make you a better person. And most of us are, it's hard to coach yourself in some of these areas. And so we encourage you to reach out if you and learn more about EOS and again, how an exit planner might help you in your succession.
Thanks, Andrew, for being here.
Thank you, guys. It's always a pleasure to collaborate with you too and to create the space needed to build a better business. So it's always a privilege and a pleasure.
Thank you. And to our listeners, we will have links listed in the show notes for you to connect with Andrea and all of the resources she shared. Until next time.
I've wrestled with these things myself, and that's exactly why I created something to help you do it with less stress and more direction. My book, Total Succession, simplifies the process by breaking it down into 5 clear steps to help you exit on your terms, with confidence, full compensation, and your client's best interests at heart. You can also head to totalsuccession.com for 1, a free guide that you can use as a starter to work through the See, Prepare, Act, Commit, Exit framework, and 2, for another freebie, my Advisor to Advisor Retirement Readiness Assessment. Remember, you only exit your business once. Create the space to make it happen. Thank you for listening. Until next time.